Well, I just had some updates. Few zoning things are on the agenda, and then like just I don't know if Melissa's going to hop on here for her
Okay,
monthly update for Sunnyside.
right from
Um,
Council Member Sandoval.
yeah. That's why we moved it back to today's date because there was conflicts with that other. I think we moved it to Wednesday or something, and there was a conflict with a standing meeting that she had that she didn't want to miss.
Yeah,
Um,
not a problem.
so anyway, I mean, I can go through. Why don't we just go through everything really quick, and then I can say I officially did everything for Troopty, and she can upload the video to the thing, and then if Melissa hops on in the meantime, because I got a little idea at the bottom that I wanted to bring up, and you'd be the perfect person to like break it in on. Um,
So, sounds good, man.
all right, so welcome to the it's I don't know, 3 minutes past, so I think we've given people time if they want to be on here at the start. Welcome to the Sunnyside Land Use Committee meeting for November of 2024. Um, it's going to be a light meeting tonight, so we'll just roll through. And Pete, if you see anything or want to say anything or bring up anything that you want on the record, just let me know. Um, since we don't have anybody else here to really approve last week's meeting notes, we'll skip to um, Pete. Did you have anything that community comments or anything you wanted to say tonight?
No, no,
Okay.
I'm just here to support the Sunnyside stuff. So,
Okay. And then Melissa's not on here yet either. She usually hops on like a little bit later, so we'll come back to hers. I'll just get through all the other announcements. Let's see. This month I got a few announcements. CPD is doing a text amendment vote. Actually, they did it a couple days ago on the new text amendment bundle for zoning. You can find that on the CPD website there. I was kind of hoping there'd be somebody on here tonight for the La Raza Park improvement virtual meeting that happened earlier this evening, but maybe next month we can get an update on what that is, or I'll have Troopty posted in the like newsletter, because that
okay,
is something that really impacts Sunnyside, the La Raza improvements. Um,
yeah, and that's important too.
but
So,
what's that?
I said the improvements will be important for that park.
Absolutely, and it sounds like it's going to be a pretty cool improvement to the park. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Um, let's see. CPD has got on the 18th, the zoning for the citywide accessory dwelling unit text amendment and map and everything is going in, and there's actually a link here on the right to that document if anybody's interested in seeing it right in the agenda notes. So if you log on and look at the agenda notes, you can click right through to that. Um, and then on the 25th, they're going to have a meeting on the manufactured home communities text amendment. There's a link there. Um, Excise and license has got a transfer of ownership for a liquor license up on, it's technically not in Sunnyside, but it was close enough that I thought I'd let me go ahead and click on the link, show you where it is. It's like this building here, this little teeny thing sandwiched. I'll scroll out. So there's I-70. So it's up in the Chaffee neighborhood. So just north. But it's in this little strip mall there if you're familiar with that. Apparently somebody new's moved in there and taken over the liquor license. So just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. There's a gas station amendment, which is basically like all the new rules and regulations for gas stations that are coming up within, I don't think well, there's a few. Is there any? Yeah, down 38th. There's no gas on our side of the street, is there?
There's that 7-Eleven that has
But
a
that,
gas station.
but but
There's
that, but that's on the south side. You mean the one?
Yeah, there's a 7-Eleven like halfway between Pecos and Federal, and that's on the south side also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, there's the one at La Pan, that's on the north side.
Um,
So La Pan
oh,
and
right, they do.
38th.
Yep, yep. In that big shopping center there, they do have gas there. So, and I
Yep.
think this is just so. Anyway, I put the links there to that if anybody's interested. The biggest one here that I think affects the neighborhood is the I-70 wall replacement along the corridor. And
Okay.
for the next couple of weeks, they're going to have off and on road closures. And so they list all of this stuff. I think like the exit to Pecos and stuff is going to be closed for the
Wow.
next
Okay.
couple of weeks.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, so that link there, and they've got some pretty good maps. So you can see that like the exit off the east westbound lanes is going to be closed. Um, oh, that's on the far. Oh, here's the Pecos one. There, so that's going to kind of affect those people up there on the north side of Sunnyside for the next couple weeks.
Hmm.
Um, so that's there. If you have any more questions about it, I was kind of hoping to get Trupti on here if she'd heard anything more on the Walter Remington update. Um, we discussed that a little bit last week. Um, I think it's kind of a done deal. It's going through. It's going to be sort of temporary house, like shelter type stuff for immigrants up to 100. Um,
In that school off of Pecos.
yeah, but only if there's like the other places are like we get an influx. It's just additional capacity is from what I understood. So
Okay.
if there's, enough capacity at the normal places, and basically it's only for 24 hours too. So if somebody gets bused here, they can stay there for 24 hours and then they'll kind of get them connected with the normal sort of homeless sort of processes and stuff that's available for them. So it won't be sort of like the hotels and stuff that they're renting and leasing to, from, the city's leasing all those spaces right now. So,
Okay.
um, well, that's all the announcements we had. We had a pretty slow, this time of year is pretty slow, with
Yeah.
things. That's all I received, um, this year as far as announcements go. Um, and since Melissa's not on here, we don't really have an update for the land use. I mean, for the District 1 councilwoman's update. So maybe she'll hop on here in 4 or 5 minutes. Um, the thing I
What's
wanted
your
to
great idea?
talk about, like in Pete, since it's just you and I've been trying to struggle with ways that we can, like, I guess the word is brand Sunnyside better. Like you go around the neighborhoods around North Denver and like over in like Berkeley and stuff like that, they've got little columns, at the entrances to the neighborhoods on the side streets,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
off.
I've seen them on 46th
Yeah.
going west.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
44th has them up there. And, as I walk the neighborhoods every week or every day, I'm sort of thinking, we don't brand neighborhoods like we used to historically. When you used to walk through old historic neighborhoods, like all the houses were the same, or there was some just sort of defining characteristic that kind of let you know where you were. And now that we've had so much new builds, in the neighborhood, you that are just, the modern cookie cutter kind of houses that have been going in and stuff, you can't really tell when you're in Sunnyside or if you're in Highlands or Potter Highlands, like they're all starting to merge together and have like sort of, a non-distinct feel. And so I was trying to figure out how we might do that to Sunnyside because I think that's important for a neighborhood to have like an identity and like a brand, or at least if people are there, they can recognize that they're in the neighborhood. Um, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying. I mean, and that's why I'm really pushing hard on this uh
Yeah, think
trying to define the innovation district
Yeah, in
because,
that corner of
Sunny's
Sunnyside, absolutely. Like, that would help too. It seems weird that like when you walk around, you just don't know. and to be honest with you, like a lot of people that aren't from the neighborhood, when I say like, oh, I live in Sunnyside, they're like, where's Sunnyside? Like they don't even really know, they probably may have heard of it if they haven't been up here, but they probably don't know exactly the boundaries and everything. So what I was trying to think of is, like, could we put together something like my initial thought was, could we put together something that was like those columns, like at the major intersections, we'd have those little columns and come up with like a cool Sunnyside, plaque that's in each of those columns and figure out how we get like grant money to initiate that. So that people, when they cross into Sunnyside, know they're coming into our neighborhood and just sort of identify it as a sense of place. Um, but then I started looking around for like other things that are going on. And like for example, if you walk through like Old Town Alexandria back east, I grew up in Virginia, like all the sidewalks are like brick. So when you're in Old Town, you're there because all the sidewalks are kind of the common theme. That ties it all together. And what I came across was this there's this green infrastructure initiative that Denver has, and I need to read through this. It's a lot of information. Um, but it talks about putting in green streets, and there's all sorts of programs going on for it. Um, and I
Hmm.
thought that perhaps that might be an opportunity to do something like that. Maybe we come up as the land use committee with like a particular feature in the Green Street, mantra that identifies us as like Sunnyside. So like working on those, like this is working on like the grass strip between the street and the sidewalk. Like
Right.
maybe we come up with some common sort of thing that like we can start implementing. And this is where I was talking to Troopty about like, we've got Jamie's working on that block captain initiative that, you said you'd be happy to like work on, be maybe follow tabs on. Um, Maybe we can get those people to help identify corners where they need improvement and start to implement some of this green streets stuff and maybe get some of this outside funding for it. And as I started digging in deeper to it, oops, sorry, wrong one. Jumping back and forth here. There's there's this Denver Green Continuum, and they have resources, this ASLA, where they're talking about green streets and what it basically does is the gist of it. If you haven't read through some of this, um, it's just a way to sort of trap runoff water instead of dumping it like straight into the Platte, like where it all runs off to now, and
Okay.
start to clean it and keep those solid particulates out of the river and help improve our runoff and capture some of this water back into our water tables, like right here where we've got it, instead of it running off and running out of the neighborhood, which Pete, this kind of goes to your neck of the woods too, because all the water from Sunnyside kind of ends up going right through your corner of Sunnyside, that northeast corner, and out there.
Well, I mean, I've shown you the thaw wag that's
Yeah.
underneath the old weld shop. Uh, so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. One of the things that we're doing in the master plan is we're putting that because we need a storm sewer amphitheater,
Yep.
and that's why we're trying to figure out how we can relocate Chuck's Mile High Comics to move him so he's happy, and then be able to do that and create the park, but have that low area there catch the water. So,
Right. Well, and
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 then
so maybe this part of this is incorporated. I need to read more into it and talk to some people probably. If you start generating more of this Green Street improvement around the neighborhood, it probably takes a lot of the burden off of that infrastructure that you were going to be required to put in up there in that northeast area of the neighborhood.
well, I mean, the city has it in their master plan because it's needed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's why we incorporated it into the master plan. But have you been over to the National Western Stock
Not
Show Spur?
not in a while.
Well, because I need to go. I was talking to Shanti Plus about this stuff, and also my PhD advisor Luke. and
Uh-huh.
he's saying there's a lot of really good stuff going on with water over there. So we should tie into that because it's only
Yeah.
once the bridge is put in, it's only 15-minute walk, 5-minute bike ride.
Right.
So
Yeah, and maybe we can see what they're doing and sort of implement some of that stuff over here. I don't know. It was just an idea. I thought it's like if this stuff is being encouraged to be put in anyway, maybe there's a way that we can sort of take a hold of it and say, all right, we're going to use this opportunity to sort of make it so that when people kind of double duties, I guess is my point. Like, you know what I mean? Like it can be, it not only
yeah,
does the improvements that they're trying to encourage, but it also could be a branding tool for us from a Sunnyside neighborhood perspective. And people look and go, oh yeah, have you been over in that neighborhood? Look at all the cool stuff they're doing on their in their right of ways, you know?
yeah. Well, I agree because that's the whole point. As an architect, you well know. Form, fit, and function, and then add the word feel in there. And it's how people use spaces and what they do in their daily life and all that and stuff. And
Yeah. So, and
so,
and
that's
there's
a
a bunch
great
of
idea.
links. There's a bunch of links I left on the agenda. Like this one was even the EPA is in on this green streets idea. And they talk about this and this is where I kind of got the idea. Permeable pavement was,
Yeah,
and you and I have talked about this, Pete, is one of the sort of elements that they try to incorporate into this at the EPA level, this green street, and I think it's at the Denver level as well. And I started doing some research on it and um like I found some links to some different pavers that are out there and companies, but like my idea would be maybe we could turn our crosswalks. Like right now, I'm not really satisfied with how we've sort of controlled traffic on some of our streets, like Clay here in particular. And they've started to put in some of those road cones and stuff like that, to at the intersections. But I was thinking maybe this would be a cool way that all of our intersections in Sunnyside become permeable paver crosswalks. Um, that helps brand us, but also captures that groundwater and starts to clean it. So I don't know. There's a
that's a
lot there to unravel, but it was just kind of this
yes.
initial concept of finding a way that we could, maybe as a land use committee, like have a real meaningful impact on the way people perceive and see the neighborhood because it starts to be you know, like a recognizable area because of the way we build some of the improvements. So anyway, that was my
That's a
thought.
no, that's a good idea, and it's a way to, like you said, brand it and market it and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was talking to my the ET squared team, and I was like, it's too bad we don't have an ad guy, so we can put
Yeah.
together a
Well,
really good ad campaign, to get this thing going. So,
Well,
but
I kind of feel that's what we are is like we're talking about land use and we're talking about the future, use of our properties and basically I think of that also as our right of ways and the public areas as well. Like, we as a group should be talking about that. Like, what do we want it to look like? What do we want? How do we want it to function? You're working on the innovation district and that area up there and how it functions up there. I mean, and maybe we can make something that sort of just ties the whole neighborhood together and that sort of thing. So,
well,
um,
that's what we're trying to do is tie the whole neighborhood together because what we've determined is we also need to talk to the business development, Denver Business Development Department, so that we
right,
and like that Caruso Investments because they're all about innovation districts, and it's like, well, who could we bring in for long term, for long term growth? For who would be a good company that would fit in the definition of an innovation district, and they could start there and grow from there. I mean, I
right.
don't know. There's a
I don't, well,
lot of things.
thanks for the link. I'm going to read into this more about what it could be because I think there's a lot of opportunity there to grab stuff and incorporate it into what we talk about and how it goes. Hey,
Well,
James.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No, that's okay. It was going to be a light one. Trupti's not on here today, and so she asked if I could just run it, and I kind of just took over. So, We don't have a lot of agenda things. I don't know if you have access, if you've been onto the agenda. I did put a bunch of links on there to all of the updates that I've gotten from the city this month. Um, I think I'll just point out the most impactful one is that I think uh, from a Sunnyside perspective is there was an update on the wall replacement is happening for the next couple of weeks between up to Pecos, so along that I-70 corridor. So there's some street closures going on for the next couple of weeks up there, including some, I think, the exit ramp at Pecos for a little bit.
Okay.
So so that was that's really the big one, and I was kind of hoping that Melissa would hop on from District 1 to give an update for Amanda's office. But she usually hops on about quarter till, and she hasn't hopped on yet. So I'll give her a few more minutes. Anyway, so Pete and I have just been talking. I've been having this idea float around of trying to find a way to sort of make Sunnyside more of a identifiable neighborhood. As I walk around through all the streets every day, like I've noticed that, with all the new houses that have gone up over the last, 5, 10 years, it's really hard to distinguish whether you're in like Sunnyside or in Potter Highlands, depending on which street you're on, that they've started to blur the characteristics between the neighborhoods. And, when you walk over like at like Berkeley, you get like all those little columns that they have at their streets when you come into their neighborhood, that kind of
Right.
identifies them as so you kind of know you're there. And so I was trying to think of if you have any thoughts about that or ideas. Like I thought maybe the land use committee could figure out how we sort of identify and brand Sunnyside better than it currently is being represented. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
and
good idea.
so one of my ideas was this thing that I came across with the city of Denver was this greens infrastructure initiative. And I haven't read through this. I'll have to admit this is like deep dive into things, and it's probably a dark hole you never can come out of if you go down it. Um,
Sure.
but I was thinking, well, maybe we could grab onto some of these type of things and incorporate what they're already wanting to do, and like maybe we put in sort of a branded green street that, when you come into Sunnyside, we get these improvements going, and it's like, oh, you're here because it looks a certain way or
Right.
something like that. Also, I think there's probably good grant money and stuff that can probably help out. There seems to be like this Denver Green Continuum street guidelines. So there's a lot of stuff going on around it that I haven't really dug into enough, and I've got to do some more research. But it's even up at, I was telling Pete, it's even up at the EPA level about these green streets and everything. So uh,
Right.
I just thought it's kind of cool, and especially the reason Pete's kind of involved in this, or up at the master plan for the city has like a water retention basin plan for up in that northeast corner of Sunnyside where he's got property. Because basically, I don't know if it's all of Sunnyside's water, but the majority of it ends up going across that northeast corner of the neighborhood before it makes its way to the Platte.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
That, well, that's why there's an underground river under our property.
yeah, what do you call that thing again?
A thal wag.
A thalwag. So,
It's on the city of Denver's stormwater stuff. And John and I were, what is a thalwag? So we looked it up, and it's an underground river.
that's,
And on that map that we have,
yep.
it has flows that are, I mean, when there's flood stages, it tells the rates of flow, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, well, you get like
So
a big deluge and downpour. Um, that was why I was thinking like, it probably gets inundated and it's probably almost impossible with, the heavier storms we seem to get with whatever climate change and all of that, when the rains get heavier and more intense. It's going to be hard to calculate and the size that's going to be need to be overall. Anyway, I thought this might be a way we like talk about it and help. maybe that alleviates some of the burden on that area you're talking about, Pete. If we're capturing it back at our, where it's hitting the ground. I mean, this thing was a pretty cool. They got these little inlets in the curb and they redirect it to permeable layers underneath the street lawns.
Huh.
Instead of letting it run into which, puts the water back into your groundwater table instead of back into the storm water runoff. Um,
I mean, it's so silly that we have lawns here, but living
yeah.
in a desert, but
I'm
it is
slowly
what
getting
it
rid of
is.
mine. I have to admit, I haven't gotten rid of all of it. It's probably half of what I started with when we bought the house, maybe more than half, less.
Yeah, I've done the same at my home. I have not much lawn in the front, and most of my lawn is in the back where we spend time. So
Yeah, I've got two keyhole gardens planned for the spring that I'm going to start killing off of they're about 12 foot by 12-foot keyhole gardens that I'm taking out of the lawn this year.
Yeah,
got to do what you got
you
to
can
do.
get discounted plants through Denver Water too.
Oh,
Cool.
really? Through Denver Water?
Yeah, so there's the Denver Water Garden in a box,
Oh,
and
nice.
they'll give you a variety of perennials, and you could just click on um, like different plant types, and if you got full shade or you want a pollinator garden.
Oh, so
Uh,
you can go pick and choose and match?
yeah,
Wow.
it's
That's pretty cool. All right,
it's
I'm
and
writing
it's
that
all it's
I'm
all
writing that
kind of
down.
discounted rate too. It's not you get smaller plants, but it's actually they fill in pretty quickly.
Well, the last couple of years, I've started to put in like edible flowers and along with the fruits and vegetables or mostly vegetables, but edible flowers and stuff that I've just been planting all over the place. And we had a pretty good year this year. I'm hoping next year they're all perennials too. So hopefully they'll all come back and they'll start getting bigger. And trying to do more of that, like intermix, like instead of having like a designated vegetable garden, like have flowers and stuff mixed in, and other low intensity plants.
Yeah, it will it'll help your yield um bringing in pollinators. So you can
Yeah.
kind of
Well, and
figure
there's
out what
things
you like.
like I read this thing where like dandelions keep certain pests away from other plants. So like if you have dandelions close to like, I don't know, your tomato plants or something, it's supposed to keep bugs that would damage your tomatoes, that kind of thing.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, you get companion plants is what they're called. Um so yeah,
Oh,
no, that's
cool.
what we did in our front yard. We got a couple of garden in the boxes.
Oh, very cool.
And you don't even have to like really think about it. They when they give you the package, you can they'll give you like a recommended layout plan. Um, yeah, like I don't know, this website's changed from last time I looked at it, but essentially they gave you like a little like if you have a rectangle yard, here's what you could do for those things. But
So resourcecentral.org.
yeah, I put the link in the chat.
Oh,
So
perfect.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah, and they're all either native to Colorado or some of them are adaptive native.
You know what?
So
I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put it in the agenda just because we talked about it. That's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah, good idea.
and then there's also uh, if you like to have a lawn and you want to keep it it's in full sun. My brother-in-law put this in that I told him about, but it's called dog tough grass. So it takes a lot of water to get it established, but once it's established, it doesn't take any water. Like I think you could water it 6 times a year.
Huh.
Um, and it's actually resistant to dog urine. So if you've got a
Really?
couple dogs, this is good, but it needs full sun, which means it needs at least
Yeah.
8 hours of sunlight.
Well, that's my front yard. That's why my front yard's dying. Yes.
Well, cool. I'll put that in their agenda as well.
Yeah, so I'm a landscape architect, so that's kind of like we use this.
Cool.
But this
Cool.
plant select is pretty nice. This is a company that was started with a combination of CSU and the Denver Botanic Gardens. So if you
It's
actually go to the
awesome.
Botanic Gardens, they have their own little um, native perennial garden right at the entry. And you'll be able to kind of see, I think this is the shot of uh, the Botanic Gardens, but I've got a bunch of this stuff, these plant select plants from my yard because they're just super drought tolerant. They attract different types of wildlife. Um, and they're super hardy, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
pretty
got to
cool.
start look. I got to start looking into that stuff for
Yeah,
my front
I've
yard.
gotten a few going over the last few years, and my wife and I have been expanding it. No, that's great stuff. So plantselect.org. I'm going to put that in there too.
James,
Yeah.
where'd you go to school to become an architect?
I have a bachelor's of landscape architecture from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And then I have a
Okay,
master's of urban design from the Arizona State University.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah, and we
Cool.
moved
Thank you.
we moved into Sunnyside in 2014.
Okay.
So we're right off of 46 in Vallejo.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
So you can go drive down between 46th and 47th. I won't tell you where I live, but you probably be able to figure it out from my front yard.
I'll have to go check that out,
Yeah,
James.
I'll have to walk up that way on my walks.
Yeah, we're I'm the GM of the family partnership that owns the old Standard Fence site where they're
Okay.
gonna need to put the bridge across to connect Sunnyside and Globeville. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I've started the Sunnyside Innovation Laboratories over there with my work, ET squared, engineered tools and technologies. So,
Okay.
but
So
that's
where's that bridge going in?
it's gonna 47th is supposed to continue east or west. Supposed to continue east over the railroad tracks and
Okay.
into Fox Park.
Because I know that
And
there's that large development that's going on east of the rail lines and just south of 70. Wasn't there a big master plan for that?
Yeah, and
yeah, it's called
there's
it's
some biggies going up over there.
yeah, it's Fox Park, and they're supposed to have Sir Richard Branson is supposed to build a Virgin Galactic hotel there, and so I mean, I'd like to see him do a laminated structure there, but multi-story, but
Yeah, like a
it's not
CLT
my
structure.
yeah, it's not my call. So
But did you look at that link I sent you to
yes,
what's his name up there in the
no,
High
no,
Plains High Plains
I haven't,
architecture? Here, I'll bring it up and
I haven't seen that.
um
I didn't. If you sent it to me, I missed it, so I apologize. But we've been watching. John and I have been studying this stuff pretty good. So because he's the architect who did the DIA terminal, so he's all
here, I'm going to
about that stuff.
share my screen here. Let's see. I think it's on the boards. One of his he is a buddy of mine. Yeah, this Futurity Tower. So it's up in
Cool.
Billings and it's going to be the tallest building. I think that it says in here somewhere like they built in Billings since 1984. It's like a 12-story, but it's mixed use and it's going to be out of CLT, cross laminated timber. So um, I thought that was pretty cool. And then, but there's parts of it in here that talk about it, and I've talked to him a little bit. They're doing water reclamation on it, and stuff within the building, and then the glazing is supposed to be like a PV type glazing, so the windows will actually generate um, some power to the building. I'm not sure how much.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, it's got some pretty cool stuff um, like
And that's
incorporated
what
into the design.
Well, and that's what we want to try and figure out with the innovation district, because when that area needs to be rebuilt, let's do it with the right materials for the future. Let's have buildings that are carbon sinks and figure
Well,
out greener electricity sources and all that stuff. So,
so this is his house, and I went up there and visited when he was building it. He lives, it's just outside of the downtown area of Billings, not too, it's walkable from downtown, so you can see it's kind of on like a normal city block. You could implement this just about anywhere if the pictures showed up. I don't know why it's not showing up, but it met the living building challenge. And it's cool. He's completely off the grid. He has like 9,000 gallons of rainwater collection in his basement. He's
huh.
got no electricity because he runs off the PV that he gets here. They don't combust anything. And then it's kind of neat. He's got this air circulating system that this breezeway here between his garage and his house is actually a greenhouse, and the air comes back into the breezeway. And then, I guess that scrubs some of the CO2 out of there and gets redistributed back through his house. I thought it was a pretty cool.
I'd like to see the plans for this.
Yeah, well, I think he has them on. I don't know why these aren't opening.
Oh, that's okay.
Anyway, it's High Plains
But
architecture. I don't know, maybe it's something with being on Facebook or on, I don't know why these other images aren't opening. Oh, he's got a video there too, um, that he talks about, and he did a lecture on it. So if you want to go, I'll put the link in the chat there if you're interested in it.
Yeah, we
High
have
Plains, what?
architecture.
High Plains
Architecture.
architecture.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a project down in Dothan, Alabama. We're redoing their city hall building, and it's going to be completely CLT.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
then
cool.
I also have a green roof on top.
I just had a conference where a guy spoke on a building they're doing, and it's CLT. But the thing that I was really captured about is they were putting this like trom wall system, almost like an old 70s trom wall type mechanism that just through closing and opening of vents could in the wintertime capture heat into the building and was reincorporated back into the HVAC system, or in the summer it was venting out the top and acted as by the way the louvers were set, it was like they were sized just right to shade it in the summer and let the sun in the winter, and it was so somewhat passive sort of heating and cooling for like a high. It was taller than 12 stories. It was like a 20-story building. It was kind of cool.
Way cool.
So I know there's a lot of neat stuff out there, and it's like finding the right thing to implement. But you'll have to put it in your innovation district.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like it's what we want to do is impact, innovation to impact is what I think that we ought to try and bring, for companies that come into the innovation district, ones that are trying to figure it out. But what types of companies does Sunnyside want to draw in so that, it does develop the brand for Sunnyside?
Yeah, well, and then if people are doing improvements to their houses, like you've got like examples they can go look at and technology they can incorporate, that would be kind of cool.
Yep.
Um, so, well, I don't think we're going to get Melissa on here. I think we've given her enough time. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer. James, did you have anything particular about the neighborhood or anything you might want to bring up for tonight? And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Oh, I was just talking about you know, chairing the Parks and Rec committee. I know that that's probably been on the wayside just because of, not a lot of horsepower behind it from a people standpoint. Um, so I think one of the things that our firm does, so I work for RDG Planning and Design.
Yep.
We do a lot of public work. Um, anything from parks to master plans and things like that, and then anything in between. But I think the goal that, what I wanted to have was just to get more involved in our neighborhood, and then B, to kind of see if we can help uh, find some funding to improve some of the open space that we have. I think everybody can agree that, Chaffee Park probably needs some sort of pavilion space. Um, and I think it needs,
I got one designed. I got one designed because
yeah,
I agree. I think it also needs to be an anchor, visual anchor all the way down 44th. So I'd like to sort of shift that playground and move the basketball court and put the pavilion like so you see like whatever the design of it would be, like the
right.
terminus down there. I mean, that's how like
Yeah,
all the great cities, guide people through their cities is they put terminuses at the end of these great axes and
right.
or axes. And I think 44th is Sunnyside's, axes, so
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's unfortunate. I was looking through the Northwest plan, and just it does seem like 44th is that, you know, commercial corridor. Um, I think
yes.
41st is the has some remnants of that commercial corridor as well. You kind of have some of those brick
Right, the
buildings.
nodes at like Zuni or not Zuni,
Yeah.
Tejon and
Yeah.
41st. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like, there could be more incorporated into like I always had this vision like 41st, now that it's a biking corridor as well,
Right.
could be more greenscape than pavement, because you wouldn't, almost I kind of had this vision of almost converting it entirely to bicycle traffic primarily, would be kind of cool. The people that lived along there, the street would be wide enough to get some cars in, but it wouldn't be like sort of a
Yeah.
vehicular
You
corridor.
would have it like a Dutch street.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I
Yeah.
was thinking if we could turn our bicycle corridors into those Dutch type streets. There's a name for them too.
Wonerf.
Huh?
It's called a Wonerf. Wonernf. Wonerf. I'll put it in
Where
the chat.
all sorts of transportation share the same space.
Yes.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right, I'm writing that down.
WOO Nerf.
W
WOONERF.
E R
Wonerf.
F. All right, cool. I knew there was a name for it. I heard it once um like in a Strong Towns meeting or something that they were talking about. It was like it was I knew there was like a German word or
Right.
I guess this is a Dutch word. Yeah.
I almost thought about what if we closed Tejon from 45th to 44th or 43rd, and you kind of made that a street that like Monkey Barrel could then take over parts of the public right away. Because so I was on the Rhino BID committee call last night.
Okay.
Because some owners were complaining about the closure of Larimer from certain districts, but they also brought up the fact that it's a positive thing on Friday nights and on the weekends when they close the street down, and then they can have all of these retail places kind of spill out into the street and take that over. So there might be some sort of permitting thing that, it's only from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But
Yeah.
I always think of, during the Sunnyside Music Festival, which I know isn't necessarily put on by this committee, but that's an event that could we get more of those types of events,
Right.
um, and then have a reason for Monkey Barrel to kind of spill out into the streets and have like a food truck corridor or something like that, and really kind of activate Chaffee Park um, for different events throughout the year instead of just one big one. Because I know that more people go to the music festival every year, and it feels like there's more people coming in from outside of the neighborhood that are actually utilizing this. So it'd just be kind of interesting to see um, what people's thoughts are on maybe closing down the street because you kind of have Shoshone to go around, and you know you can really start creating a nice little anchor point right there if we have that shade structure pavilion.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's that. Well, that's a kind of what I envisioned. I actually had an idea of changing. So I think it would be between 43rd and 45th. I think that's the north and south boundaries of the park.
yeah.
Um, Changing Tejon to one way southbound, and then the northbound lane would go up and go around the east side of the park and then connect back up at 45th.
Hmm.
So that then you could widen out those sidewalks and like you said, like utilize that public space because the vehicular traffic would be, a minimal element of that
Right,
like area then. And
right.
it would help. It would also be like a calming, traffic calming mechanism there. You
Right.
want to kind of turn and go around the park.
Yep.
Um, I've always figured or envisioned like that park, and this would be way after I'm long gone, but like 50 years from now, ending up being like those piazzas in Italy. It's kind of the central hub of our neighborhood, and maybe there's
Huh.
fountains and pavilion structures and things like that, and just lots of activity that draw neighbors to the core of our community, especially like visually too. Like, there's
Right.
got to be a tower or something like pavilion, like right there at the middle at the end of 44th.
Yeah. I mean, like Sunnyside's got way more green space than the Highlands does. So, I mean, we have the La Raza Park, which is
Yep.
kind of the gateway park into the neighborhood. But then, Chaffee Park's really at the heart of the neighborhood.
Well, we
Um,
do, but they're big areas that aren't spread around, I don't think, as well. Like, so I'm over at 42nd and Clay, and like the closest park I would say here is either you use the Columbian, field for this elementary school,
yeah,
which you're not really supposed to do as a park, but it's an open space. Um, and then, or you cross over Federal onto the other side, and you're, over there,
yep,
across from St. Catherine's. So there's not even really like a green space within like a quarter-mile walking distance of my house, in the neighborhood.
right,
And I've always thought that we should find like break them up, maybe maybe not change what we currently have, but try to find places in each little section of Sunnyside where we can create like little pocket parks or something so that everybody's got like some open space within like that 15-minute walkable neighborhood.
right.
Sort of that like Savannah. I don't know if you've ever been to Savannah, Georgia. They've got I forget the urban planner that laid that all out, but it got there's like 28 parks through Savannah, like all in this grid. So everybody's got like a park within like 10 minutes of their house if they
Is
walk.
that like the new urbanist development?
No, 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 no. The old Savannah, Georgia. Like,
Okay.
um, the
I
guy,
haven't
I don't
been
know,
there, so I've never
French,
seen it.
um, I'm just trying to type it was like Lafayette or somebody like that. Like, um, like somebody that laid it out with the parks. Um, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Yeah, here, I'm going to share my screen. I don't know who it was that laid it out yet, but I just grabbed a picture. Like, see how he laid out like all of this stuff? Like one of these ones is the one that like Forrest Gump was sitting in front of on the park
Oh
bench.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, but you can see how he like laid out this like grid, within the grid of the city, there are these parks that are also uniformly laid out so that, everybody's got something within a block or two to walk to. It's
Right.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
That's
see what you're saying.
the newer way is that new urbanism type of uh kind of style of developments. A local kind of example is uh, like where Stanley Marketplace is over
Yeah, but they
there.
kind of gave up on that a little bit as they in the later development regions.
Right. The newer stuff, the newer ones, yes.
Yeah.
They packed them in, but like there's that
But there's a
Central
linear
Park
part that they do, to
Boulevard
be
and
fair, they got that linear park along the creek.
right.
So,
But
yeah.
there's I don't know if it's Lowry, whatever this is called, but like north of Montview,
Yep. Yeah,
um
I think you're right. I think it is
there's a lot more
Lowry.
green. There's a lot more green parks kind of in that development between Montview and MLK. But yeah, I think, if you went north to what is that? Like Northfield. I mean, there's kind of some parks, but it's not as nice
Yeah.
as what is that? Stapleton. Yeah, so Stapleton's kind of got it, but really the Central Park area is really done it well.
There's one out there, a subdivision. We drove to it last summer because I saw a thing on TikTok. They've got a linear like park that runs all the way along through it. I think it's out Airport Road. Um, and they've got a new subdivision out there, but there's a linear park that kind of runs along. To call it a creek is kind of overstating it. I think it's really just the runoff drainage, so there really wasn't any water when we were out there in it. But what they've incorporated into it is artwork, like massive sculptures that they've somehow gotten commissioned and stuff. And
Hmm.
so while the rest of it's fairly mundane, like sort of, it does have a bike path along it and all of that. And there's not a lot of infrastructure they had to build. There are these stopping points with these big, huge sculptures. I mean, if you're ever interested in going look at some weird, funky stuff, it's kind of cool to go out. Yeah, maybe we get some art installations in our open spaces around Sunnyside to
Well,
brand it.
I mean, like, I don't know. I could probably, we have, funny enough, we have our own art division, our art studio in our own office here. I could probably talk to some of those people and see if they know about how to get some funding for some of the things. Because I do think, like, I agree about it would be great to get some sort of iconography when you enter into the neighborhood, especially in the big, like the exits, right? Like Pecos and
Yeah,
Federal
well, Pecos and Zuni are our two
and Zuni.
cross-through verticals that run.
Right.
Have you ever seen my map I came up with? Um, I'm gonna pull up. I don't know. And we can talk about this later. We should go grab lunch or something some point.
Sure.
Um, I'm let's see here, neighborhood. Neighborhood development.
Here, I'll put my email address in the chat.
Oh, cool. I'll drop mine in there too. I'll send you a picture because I've actually done this. Like I've modeled up the whole neighborhood in SketchUp. I thought it was the easiest way to grab the topo and everything and drop it in there. But then like overlaid with, I mean, eh, um, Sunnyside is actually laid out really, really well. If you really look at how the streets, the major corridors were, and that's one of the things I kind of thought we could do, especially when we're doing this block captain thing that Jamie's doing. Identifying these areas, and I've kind of broken it up into these like I guess they'd almost equate to like super blocks, like in Madrid,
Hmm.
like, and then you get those and you break them down into like 15-minute walking areas. And what could we do in Sunnyside to sort of encourage that, type of
Right.
mentality, where we take each little piece and make sure that, like, my ultimate idea would be to make sure that no matter where you are in Sunnyside and live, within 15 minutes of your house, you have everything that you could possibly almost want in life. Not to mean you didn't have to commute or something like that, but if you chose not to, you could kind of be walkable. And how do we take a neighborhood that's kind of automobile centric at this point and convert it back into a walkable neighborhood? That interests me, and I'm curious about that. Are there ways we can
Right.
convert neighborhoods back to walkable neighborhoods? Because, like you said, there's these little nodes on these old streets. Sunnyside used to be a lot more walkable.
Right.
Like right at the corner of 42nd and is it Bryant or Alcott? Yeah, Bryant. There's a little place there that's now a duplex, but it used to be. And my neighbors that used to live here, they passed away since then. When we first moved in, they used to shop there. It was a grocery store called Bongers, like a
Hmm.
little
Oh,
bodego grocery store right at the corner there. And now it's like just it's one of the little one-story flat roof brick buildings that was obviously a store back in the day. But I was like, how cool would that be to walk 2 blocks and go get, like your kind of staple food items. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the interesting part, right? Where you can, because wasn't there, I thought there was plans along 46th for a bakery, and I think that kind of fell through.
well, and there's like another example, there's that architecture firm. I don't know who he is or who they are
On
on
Zoom.
Zuni. I think it's
Yeah.
Zuni, like down by 40, maybe 40th or so. It's on the west side of the street. You can tell it's a little commercial building. There's architect. It used to be a place. I don't know when they left, but it was like Mike's Deli. And
Right.
Nicole and I used to walk over there and get sausage and stuff. Um, when
Right.
we first moved in. Now it's an architecture firm, but so at least it's a business. But it would be cool to have the deli back.
Yeah, because I think the city's plan, like 38th is the big commercial corridor. Um, and so it's just trying to figure out is how do we get feeders to that? Because I think, walking from my house about 46th, my dog walk loop takes me down Tejon to 41st, and that does not feel terrible. So, and 41st and 38th, it's another 3 blocks, 2 blocks, three blocks. So if we
Right.
can get that kind of, I think you're right. The verticals of Zuni and Tejon and really it's pedestrian wise, it's Zuni and Tejon are the pedestrian scale streets. Pecos, because it's arterial, is a little bit faster speeds. I don't know if people really like walking on Pecos as much.
I'm
Um,
gonna I'm gonna share my. This is the map I've started to put together. Um, so like, and I've
right,
got several of these. Like, here you go. So the blue circle or ellipses or whatever are the 15-minute quarter mile. So this is a half a mile from
right,
like 41st to 46. And then you got 44th going down the middle here, and you got the park in the middle. And when you look at it, like, Zuni and Pecos were our two, you can tell they were the primary ones north and south through the middle of the neighborhood because they still go under the interstate,
right.
or over it.
Yeah,
Uh,
they make their way through the interstate.
Right, they make their way through over or under, but they and then then it's funny. It's only a half a mile right to Federal, which is also sort of a commercial corridor. And when you look at the old maps from like the 20s, like there were a lot of shops and businesses down by the railroad tracks back in the day too. So that's kind of our eastern boundary.
Right,
Um, and then we've already talked about 38. So it was kind of laid out really, really well. Um, back in the day. And then, you look at, so if those are our major ones around these walkable things where we can encourage density, it turns out like these other corridors are almost exactly the bike routes that we've picked, because they're the old bus lines or trolley lines.
yeah, the streetcar, yeah,
So, not exactly, but kind of,
yeah, it's pretty close.
it's pretty close. So that's why I was, and then, you can see how the park, Chaffee Park is like dead in the middle just about. And it's
Right,
like, it's just off center on the one side, but it's like, it's totally meant to have like some iconic draw to it for our whole neighborhood.
right. Yeah, no, I think it's this is a good graphic to kind of show like, you know, makes a ton of sense, and especially if you live in the neighborhood, right away, like walking on Tejon and Zuni, and I think why I really do think why Tejon and Zuni, especially when you get to I think south, yeah, like south of 44th, uh,
Right?
is where you get the detached sidewalks. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the most simplest way to make
Yep.
Sunnyside more walkable is getting rid of the 3 foot attached
Oh my
sidewalk
God. There's one
and
right
going
here
into
on
a
Clay Street. You
detached.
can't even walk the dogs.
Yeah,
I have to walk in the street or the dogs have to walk in the street.
right.
Yeah.
Like
It's
that right there, I think would solve a bunch of,
Yeah,
walk.
because there's a lot here, the rest of our central, I call it our spine. Um, like so east of the park, there's a lot of these blocks that don't even have sidewalks.
Right.
Um, uh, and I have always thought that this should have been our connection pedestrian this is where the bridge should go, not up here on Pete's property. I always thought it should be here with like a really cool, but I realize there's just so much logistics there. I actually walked it. It looks doable. I kind of thought it would be cool to do. The bridge at Glenwood Hot Springs that goes over to the downtown area from the hot springs, and you kind of go across the bridge. And as you get across, you realize that there's businesses down on the side of the bridge that
Yep.
you have to kind of
Yeah.
walk down and around to get to. I
Yeah.
always thought if we had a bridge like here that went across, there could be cool businesses on either side of that bridge because the bridge would have to start like way back here, to get elevated to get over the
Right.
trains and stuff. And I was like, how cool would that be to have those little tucked in businesses down underneath the bridge, you know?
Well, one of the reasons why it's kind of a problem for 44th to go through over into Fox Park is the train, the commuter train that's on the east side. It
Yeah,
it it raises,
it starts
starts to
to
raise up.
elevate. A,
Yep,
it's about right here. It doesn't get really high, but it does start to go up right there.
yep.
Yeah.
So,
So is the bridge that's on 46, is that going to go under the
No, because it
no,
comes back down before it gets to the interstate. So that's why it's going
uh,
across over here.
okay.
yeah, it's going across on. If you take 47th
Yeah, it's going to
straight
be,
across,
yeah,
because
it's right here where
47
47, and it's going to go right adjacent to the interstate and then down into Fox Park.
that property where it dead ends, that's the family partnership property, the
The,
old
the,
standard fence site.
yeah, this here, right, is all standard
Yep,
fence. Yeah.
yep, yep. That's our JSCJS.
Yeah, I bought that fence from Mark for years.
That's cool.
Yeah, we used to use them. I mean, where are they at now?
They're on 64th.
Yeah, they moved up. Well, I'm not a
Fourth,
contractor anymore, so I don't buy any fence. Let them deal with it. But
it's because
anyway,
that underground
I'll have to show
storage
you,
tank.
James. Well, here, and do you have my email address? I'll drop it in the chat.
Perfect.
I'll just give you my personal one instead of my Sunnyside one. Or not personal, but my work one. The one I use most.
Oh,
Yeah, when I have to ride into work, because I work in Rhino, I'll take 46 then, and then head down La Pan until about 44th, and then I'll hit on Inca, and then take that across 38th, go underneath the freeway, ride by Corner Vecchia,
Yep.
and then get on the river.
Down at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Well,
there was
that's
a
another conversation that
streamlined
Pete and I
way
have
to kind
had.
of get to Rhino, I would definitely take it. Like if we could connect to Globeville and then that 44th overpass over I-25,
Yeah,
that could,
it jumps up to 45th as it goes over.
yeah,
Yeah. Um,
that would be a more direct shot for me because I'm in Taxi, which is like right
yep.
by
Oh
RTD
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
area.
yeah.
So it's a pain in the butt to get to on a bike. So I haven't really been riding all that
They still have
much.
that restaurant down there. I used to go over there and get sandwiches all the time. It's been years though.
Sylvia's Kitchen. It's like a taco joint, and there's a coffee bar there.
Oh, there used to be a
But
good sandwich shop in Taxi.
yeah, there's like a food incubator, um, but it hasn't been filled. So
Uh, well, that's another topic that Pete and I have had over the, I don't know, long time, Pete, we've been talking about like the idea of I think Inca is the perfect place to do a linear open space park there and create like a buffer between the tracks and all of the businesses that are developing. I think I mean I think cut Inca off from vehicles altogether and just make it like a linear pedestrian and bicycle park all the way down that corridor.
yeah,
Um,
well,
because there's that
and then
power
under
substation there.
Yeah, that kind of breaks it up. Pete and I talked about that last week. Like XL does have certain power transfer stations that they put, like the one down by the ballpark that, most people don't even know it's not a real building, because it's like a
Yep.
facade, a facade.
Yeah.
Something like that would go a long way to connecting that corridor visually instead of having that kind of, barbed wire fence chained in.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
think yeah, closing Inca would be a really cool idea.
Just
well, and then that's where you could do sculpture, on the
yeah, the
for the
whole
boundary,
thing
that
could
whole
be.
corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, like a
And
2-lane bike path and then just trees and benches and just I mean it could be so cool because you just vacate the entire right of way. I mean, because most of those businesses that are going in along there or most of those residences like towers and stuff, they all service from the side streets or the back. They're not even servicing from, there is some parking along there, but it's not really like you'd need it.
Right. Like they would be coming in on the numbered streets, essentially
Right.
to their parking garage, or
Right. So
they'd be
you'd
coming in
have
on
to.
Jason Street, which is right behind it.
Right, because they're almost some of those are full block developments, so the parking
Right.
garages all dump out onto the backside anyway. I don't think any of them have. Maybe they do. Maybe there is one down there that they just recently built that does have like a vehicle entrance into their parking garage.
But
But
you could just leave it to the alley. I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing is like
yeah,
if they wanted to do instead of the super block one, if they did half a block, you could just have them utilize the alley to enter in and
yeah. I
you
I
know,
think I mean, could you imagine? Because this is each one of these is about 3 to 4 blocks. So you got like 12, 13, 14, 16 block long linear just arborist park that goes all the way down would be spectacular.
yeah, exactly. And then put, a good sound barrier so the train noise doesn't,
Yeah.
isn't too much and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many possibilities to do along the Inca and then carry it underneath I-70 so we can connect with Chaffee Park. So,
Well, isn't there already, well, I think you can't get through as a private person there right now, can you? Or does the bike path go right on through right here?
well, it's basically railroad right away, what it is. And since that building right there that the Matrix Group owns next, just south of Mile High Comics,
Yeah.
there's a really wide area there, and people don't go there because it just looks really sketch. The only people I see going by are of our property are bicyclists catching that up,
Yeah. Yeah.
going up and
This is
underneath.
this right here is where this bridge here is where I used to go with the boys when they were little, because there's a bunch of lawn chairs sitting underneath there. Because that's the what are those security guard guys for the tracks?
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you're talking
they're
about.
like Pinkerton, but maybe it is Pinkerton. Whatever
Could
it
be.
whatever it is, those trucks you see that drive along the security for the railroad lines. Anyway, their office is right there, but underneath that bridge, if you got little boys or girls that like trains, you can sit there and watch the guys with the remote controls, like moving the cars around and switching stuff with the engines because the engines are like, real life size engines, like they're
right.
remote control.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's
it's
way
like
cool.
I don't know if you ever seen that thing that's got the harness that the guys that do the concrete pumper trucks, like they look just like that. The controls kind of hang on their chest and they got two joysticks and they control these massive diesel engines remotely and they're just walking along talking to you. They're standing right there where you're sitting. Um, and it's kind of cool. They're slamming railroad cars into one another. So I don't mind the train noise. I kind of like train noise. But I'm not typical. So anyway, well, I'll give you a shout, James, in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we can go grab coffee or something.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some I'd love to just bend your ear with your skill set and everything because I've done architecture my whole career and I know a lot of principles of urban design and all of that, but it wasn't that my specialty, of course. But it's become sort of a side passion of mine these days, especially with Sunnyside and sort of trying to incorporate some of this stuff, new urbanism ideas and things like that. Um, so
Yeah, I think it's always good to just kind of think about what we could do and then just trying to see if we could get, some funding. There's probably obviously different levels to what we can accomplish within our lifetimes, but
Yeah.
I think easily the
Well, I
biggest
got
thing
that
is like
grant
how do
money
we
last.
present this to the larger community that can get them to just look at it and react to it and
Yeah, if you can get them to buy in with some eye candy,
right.
absolutely. And like last summer, I got that $1,500 grant, and we turned it into a block party barbecue. For 135 people we ended up having. Like it was cool. Everybody's so stoked to do it again next year. So there's money out there for different things. We just got to be able to go out there and find it. Well, and
Right.
that's why I thought that all of that stuff with that green street initiative, is
Right.
there's got to be, with if it's EPA has got it, and stuff with Denver and all of this, there's got to be money out there that we can grab. I mean, people don't put this much work into this type of design without there being the possibility
Right.
that we can get some funding to make it happen. I mean, could you
Especially if we
imagine
could
if that if
convince them that it's, probably I have to look at the watershed, but if we can remove some water getting to 38th
yeah.
to
Well,
avoid the viaduct,
I'm
that would
I'm sure
probably
like all running down Inca from north to south, that's all heads that, what doesn't go into Pete's Basin over there at the north end, that the only other way to go is under 38th. And so could you imagine if Inca was one of these green streets that trapped, a significantly larger portion of the runoff than it currently does?
right.
It'd
Um,
be cool to turn Inca, that part of Inca, into what they've done into Santa Fe at the Arts District there.
yeah,
That'd be kind
exactly.
of cool to do something along those lines
Except
to
permeable
bring
pavers
people in.
instead of asphalt and concrete.
Correct,
Um,
correct.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because
So
I was looking up some of these permeable paver companies. Like there's
We
some
did
pretty cool ones out there, and they last longer. It's like 7,000 PSI concrete they make this stuff out of.
yeah, they're tough. We installed it at the Botanic Gardens.
Yeah,
So
cool.
and
like
like
all the
I was doing some research on, like, so for example, let's say you had to go fix the street. Um, it's 15% of the repair costs, because you don't have to send out like a bobcat and a jackhammer and break up the asphalt and dig it all up, and you know then bring in dump trucks and stuff to fix it once you're done. um this, the maintenance and upkeep is like while it's a little more to put in initially, over the lifespan of it, it pays for itself tenfold, because
Wow.
it's just so easy to maintain. Like you just go fix the part you need. You got a couple guys pulling out the bricks, digging their hole, fixing the pipe, whatever they got to do, and then you put the bricks back. You don't have to like have all that other stuff and send out like a whole crew. Yeah, I was doing research on it. It doesn't, it obviously doesn't make sense for things like 38th and stuff like that. But I was thinking like on our pedestrian walkways and on our crosswalks and stuff. I don't, why not? I mean, start doing it one little corner at a time. So anyway, well, thanks for sitting on my soapbox tonight, guys. Since Troopy didn't show, isn't here, and um, anything you guys
Thank
want to
you.
pitch in, I'd be more than happy and accept the help.
yeah. Where's the agenda posted?
So it's underneath. I'm trying to find. You know what? I'm just gonna give you. Let me go back here real quick. So if you do you have you gone to the public drive? There's
Uh,
the SUNY public drive here.
is it on the website? A link to that?
Let me see here. Yeah, it's on the website, but here we go. Troopy's got so much stuff. These aren't these, and I have top secret access into this shit. Um, I was gonna just post the link if you wanted it. Here we go. Copy link. All right. So there's the link to the public drive, and when you go into the public drive, you'll see that there's the SUNY Land Use. There's like the SUNY's annual meetings and stuff. Um, but within there is the agenda minutes, and what I've got is organized by year since I started work doing the committee, and I've broken it up by month. So you can just go to the month, and then the land use is in there, and I've tried to drop accompanying documents in there too. So here's like the La Raza flyer and stuff. So I mean it it changed. It's a dark rabbit hole you could go down, but like basically I've got them organized by month, so you could go in there and find any of the agendas.
Okay. Yeah, no, good. Yeah, because I just want to like peruse it and just see what
Yeah.
is going on.
And if there's stuff you want to be included, like drop me an email and I'll put it into the agenda so we make sure we don't forget about it. Um,
Okay.
um, and yeah, maybe we can get together and start figuring out how we put. I'd love to be able to implement this stuff. And I'm not talking about, trying to change the world. It's like one little corner at a time or something. If we could just start something, it just feels like that we haven't really, as a land use committee, really, we got through the CO8 and CO7, overlays, and everybody kind of went poof, and nothing's really moved forward. We did, we are working on the 44th corridor stuff, and Amanda's kind of taken that on, so there are some things, but I think there's a
Hmm.
way for us as a committee to maybe do some things that are a little more tangible to the surrounding neighborhood, that people can
Right.
see. Um, Nobody shows up here to see, you know, zone map amendment changes. They're just not exciting. But if, they got a column at their corner that said Sunnyside on it or something, they might notice that we're
Right.
doing something. Um, or you turn Inca into a green street park, that would be cool.
Right.
Um, cool. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I mean, we actually wasted or not wasted, but we made it all the way almost to the end. I'll call the meeting and we can call it a night.
Sounds good.
Yeah, wait.
See,
Thanks,
yeah.
Rod. Thanks,
Yeah,
James.
well,
I
thanks
will
for hopping on, guys, and keeping me company.
yeah. It's nice
You're
meeting you
welcome.
guys.
All right, I
We'll
will end
have to
end the
connect
recording.